I'm forever grateful that people feel comfortable in opening their lives.
It's a relentless pursuit of the truth.
Oh, my. We're in business.
Help me bring to the stage the man, the myth, the legend, the homicide hunter, Joe Kenda. Everybody get up. Everybody get up. Joe Kenda, it's your birthday.
Thank you very
Joe
much.
Kenda.
Thank you. They gave me a microphone. It was their mistake. They gave me this microphone.
Have a seat, brother. So,
A comfortable seat, better than standing.
right? So, quick story, and I promise I won't get wordy because I know I can do that. The first time I meet Kenda, it's in Los Angeles. We're out there for TCA. I guess this is 2014, I guess it's 2015. And Kenda's being Kenda. Just like being this dude, right? And I'm there, and I'm nervous, I'm green because I'm with the channel and introducing the First Hate in America special for the first time, and I'm sitting backstage with him, getting to know him. We're just shooting it, right? And my daughter's with me. I take my daughter out. She'd never been to California, so I'm going to take her out. This is a big event. Yay! Cool dad moment. Right. So we're talking, and I introduce my daughter to Kenda, and she's like polite and everything else because that's the way I raised her, right? But it doesn't register, right? So we go out on the stage, and they roll the clip of the show. And as you know, Kenda has that switch. Boom, right? And it's Joe Kenda full on. My daughter is... I know him. Brother, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
So I guess I want to start this by covering some ground I've heard you discuss before. I'm going to tweak it and get into some areas that I don't hear you talk about much, but we've had some conversations. I've read the book. But I think just to do a little bit of housekeeping and tell the story again of how you, and I ask it this way. Did this work call you, or is this something that you wanted?
No, it's not something I anticipated. It's not something I ever believed would happen. I was a policeman. I was married to a girl I met in high school. We had 2 kids. We worked like dogs. We saved money to send both kids to college. We did that. They graduated with 0 debt. We wondered, after we did that, we said, how'd we do that? I don't know. We figured out something. So no, I didn't think that. I had a career that I loved. I would have done it for free. Kathy would not have agreed with that. But I loved what I did. But I had a career and I was done with it. But they reached out to me, they being the media, saying, we want to talk to you. And my initial reaction was, I don't want to talk to you. So my wife said, are you going to call them? No. When I don't like these people, why would I call them? You know. So she beat me up for 3 days and finally convinced me I better do that. And we're filming season 8 as we speak. So it's been my experience that my wife is always right. And so I said, okay, I'll talk to him. So here we are.
Yeah.
And here all you are.
Right.
You know, so.
But if I take you back to your days in law enforcement, you started as a patrol officer, right? Before you moved to homicide.
Everybody does.
Everybody
Nobody
does.
starts as a detective. Nobody.
Yeah.
You go into police work, you start in uniform, you learn how to be a policeman. You learn how to deal with the street. The first day I was on the job, the very first day, I walked out of the police building looking for my training officer, and I couldn't find him. And a cop rolled up in a marked cruiser, older guy, and he looked at me and he stuck his head out the window to look at my name tag because he knows I'm a new guy. And he says, how do you say that? I said, it's Kenda. Well, welcome to the greatest show on earth, Kenda, humanity. And he put the car in gear and he drove off. That was a prophetic statement.
Oh, God. So but here's something you don't know. I know that there was a family member who essentially was the inspiration for you to go into law enforcement.
Yep, my uncle. My uncle Dan Morrissey was my mother's brother, and he was on the Colorado State Patrol. When I was a kid, I lived in Colorado in the summer. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, but my family my mother's from Colorado Springs. So in the summer, we'd go live with my grandparents, my brother and I. And I had contact with Dan Morrissey, my uncle, on the State Patrol. I always admired him. He was always a uniformed officer, worked in the street, became a sergeant with the State Patrol. My son's name is Dan. I named him after my uncle. He's named after him. So I always admired him for that. And when I got to be old enough, and I thought maybe what I want to do is be a policeman. Now, when Kathy married me, she didn't marry a policeman. She married me. So it was a little bit of a shock when I said, hey, I want to be a policeman. What? We never discussed this, you know. And so, but we did. We did that. And probably the nicest thing she's ever said to me is 2 years after I retired. It took me a long time to lose the venom. You know, when you're a policeman, you're suspicious of people, and you watch where their hands are, and take your hand out of your purse, you know, that sort of thing. And it took me 2 years to lose that venom. And I was sitting at my kitchen table one morning, minding my own business, I might add. I was smoking a cup of coffee, and my wife said, hi. I said, in case you haven't been paying attention, I've been sitting here for 2 hours. You know. I know, but you're the guy I married again. And I thought that was very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Joe, so many cases, and I think, God, folks would love to know how it is you're able to remember the cases and tell the stories as well as you do.
It's very intense work. If you did it, you'd remember as well.
Yeah.
You don't look at somebody's mother and say, who's not coming home anymore, and forget that.
Yeah.
You don't do that. I don't, anyway. It became part of me. It was more than a job. It was a mission. And I don't
So why did you do it? Why did you do the work?
Because nobody gets to play God. You don't get to kill people. You don't get to do that. That's against the rules. And if you do that, you got to pay the price. I'm the price.
You said, and I remember hearing you tell a story about not necessarily being interested in television, but then there were a couple of things that convinced you to start down this path.
Yeah, there were really two things that convinced me to do it. I talked to my wife at length about it. I came back and spoke to Discovery. I thought they were very forthright and very nice people. That relieved me in some ways. I was concerned it was the image you have of Hollywood, and it hasn't been that at all. Very nice people. So I thought, well, okay, they're okay. So what can we gain from this? And I thought two things we could gain. Most importantly, for me, it was therapeutic. I could talk about things I've never talked about. I've said things to that camera I've never said to my wife. Because it feels better to do that than not do it, okay? The second reason is I thought if I could save one person, one, from a bad relationship by convincing them to walk away when I advise people to do that, to not get involved in narcotics, to not get involved in bad choices. If I can save a life, one life, worth my time.
Is there a story that comes to mind that you decided to tell that story with the hope that it would keep someone from staying in a bad, potentially abusive, potentially deadly relationship?
I've done this a number of times in episodes on the program, but I tell this directly to young women that I've met when I was working and even now on TV. If your companion, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever it is that your significant other, suddenly begins to accuse you of doing things you haven't done, accuses you of seeing other people of the opposite sex, he begins to talk in fantasy about what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Are you listening?
This is a bridge. This is a bridge to your destruction. Abusive male personalities have a process. It begins with verbal, then it becomes physical, and then it becomes murder. Pack your Samsonite and hit the wind. You found him, you can find another one. There's a big ocean out there. Okay? It's a big ocean. Don't believe, don't believe I'm going to change him. Oh, no, you're not. He's a drunk, but I can get him to stop drinking. No, you can't. Only he can. He's a heroin addict, but I can get him off of it. No, you can't. He has to decide to get off of it, and you've got nothing to do with it. He likes to hit me once in a while, but I'm going to make him stop. Yeah, he's going to stop when you're in the morgue. That's when he's going to stop. Reality is a terrible thing. You know why? Because it's so real.
So, I suppose it's the most basic question, and it's the one I get when I'm doing this work. And I often say, boy, I wish Kenda were here so I could ask him the question. Why do people kill?
People kill because their emotions overcome their judgment. Everybody knows that to kill is wrong. To kill is immoral. To kill is illegal. All the things you associate with that. When you allow your emotions to overcome your judgment, you are capable of any behavior. There is no more dangerous animal on this planet than a human being. Animals kill for need. They kill to survive. They kill to eat. They kill to defend themselves from being eaten. Humans are the only animals that kill out of emotion. And that makes them the most dangerous. I often say to people, picture yourself on the Serengeti plain millions of years ago. You see the animal kingdom before you. You notice this little creature, 4 feet tall, bipod, covered in hair, associates with other creatures that look like him. They seem to communicate by some means. They grunt. They have weapons. They're able to kill animals 4 times their size. You are looking at early man. You admire this clever creature for some period of time and think, what an astounding little thing that he's able to do all these things. But it would not be in your interest to try to pet him, and it still isn't. We're not that far from the Serengeti plain. We wear nicer clothes.
We wear nicer clothes.
But we're not that far.
So I remember you saying to me, you want to know what I'm trying to do, Kenda. And I can't. But you told me sex, money
and revenge.
Talk us through it.
Sex is any part of sex, a relationship of any kind, interest in it, whatever. A very broad subject has subcategories. Money, of course, is the obvious. Money is the first motive. Money, sex is the second motive. Revenge is the third. There is some mix of those emotions in every killing. Money as a motive, you don't pay for your drugs. The people you buy them from are not forgiving. They don't sue you. They come over to your house and fill you full of bullets. That's what they do. On and on. All those things are predictable. Humans behave predictably. People like to believe they're clever, that they're very smart, and they've devised this plan, unfortunately for them, usually through a mist of alcohol and drugs, and the plan is constructed in less than 4 minutes. But it's brilliant because they, of course, are brilliant. And the police, of course, are very stupid. And they'll never find us. And they carry on whatever it is they're up to. It's just the way things are. It's a benefit to the police that people are idiots who commit these crimes. There are very few clever criminals. There are some, but there are very few. So all those things are predictable, and people like to believe they're really smart, and they're really not. So it's unfortunate. I had a guy in an interrogation once who was just incredibly stupid. And I looked at him, I said, you know, Frankie, you've been mercifully spared from the ravages of intelligence. And he just looks at me and he says, what? Never mind. You know, let's get back to the point at hand. Like, what address do you live in besides a yellow house, which is what you told me where you live is, you know? We need to narrow that a little bit. You know, there's a lot of yellow houses. Yeah, it's kind of pathetic, really. But humans can do predictable things, and it's an unfortunate fact of life. And money, sex, and revenge drive it.
There's a story I want you to tell because it just seems to get better every time you tell it. Honestly, and it's not because you're changing it at all. The facts are the facts, but it's just the way, you know, it's just, you put that Kenda, you know, secret sauce on it. Right? And, okay. All right, easy.
Maybe
easy.
we can market that somehow.
Brother.
If I knew how to do that.
This is my California couple. Dude, you all right? You look a little tight over there. You all right? Okay, you're good? Okay. So it's the story, I believe you were a patrol officer, and it's one of your early cases, and it's at a bar, right?
A lot of them are in a bar. I don't know which one.
Yeah. It's the one where there's a shootout at a bar.
Been a lot of those too.
Here's the other piece that I know.
The first one, yeah.
Yes, here's the other piece I know. That when you went home after that day at work, after that episode.
Oh, yeah, that was a fun
there
moment.
You go, there you go.
You've all seen the episode, my first case talks about me as a rookie and so on and so forth. And got shot at, the first time I got shot at 11 times. I never got hit, but 11 times. But that was the first time. And it sounded like the guy had a 155 millimeter howitzer, you know. It was a huge gun, you know. It was not a huge gun, but it sure sounded like one when it's pointed at you. So anyway, after that all gets cleared up, I go home. I'm very late getting home. My son, who is now a commander in the Navy, was 3 years old at the time. And dear old Dad, it's my own fault, I had gone to Target and bought him a battery-powered machine gun, which was his dearly loved instrument of terror that he used to chase his sister around the house with, you know. And he was in hog heaven. And I came home. I closed the front door. I'm still in uniform. And this little urchin runs around the corner with his machine gun and pulls the trigger. You know, he says, "You're dead, Daddy, you're dead." You know, and I slid down the door, turning white, and my wife said, "Danny, why don't you go play in your room?" You know, because she didn't know what happened, but she knew it wasn't good, whatever. So I almost got killed twice in the same day. But one wouldn't have done anything, but it scared the crap out of me. It was
Right.
long night and then an even longer morning.
Yeah. So that leads me perfectly into a question that I don't know if I've heard asked of you, and I'm sure it has. But have you ever been scared on a call?
Always. Anybody that says they're not is either lying or they're insane. Fear is what keeps you alive. Have you ever been so scared you have a taste of metal in your mouth? Ever been so scared you can hear your heartbeat? You can hear yourself breathe, and everything kind of goes into slow motion? That's fear, okay? The difference is you move through your fear and do your job. One of the most overused words, I think, two words lately in the media, hero and brave. Nobody's a hero. It's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. They are forced into those extraordinary things by circumstance, by duty, by employment, by desire, whatever. Nobody's heroic. They're moving through their fear and doing what they're supposed to do. But I have been so scared I couldn't spit, let alone anything else. You're doing a dangerous job, particularly if you kill. Once you kill, after that it's just numbers. How much punishment are you going to get? More punishment? No. So you arrest people for murder, you're taking a chance. You are. And those moments come up. And you have to realize that what you're doing is dangerous stuff. But you do so because you want to, you think you must, and you move through the fear anyway.
That brings me to the question about how you connect with, how you work with the families of victims.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And how you communicate with them, and how much of your mission is bringing justice to those families.
You can never give closure to someone.
I try not to use that word, but it's always sort of tip of tongue.
You lose a loved one, it's a hole in your heart that never heals. It never, ever goes away. Some people deal with it better than others, but it's the pain you'll feel for the rest of your days. You've lost someone in your family to a violent crime, you're going to remember. I can at least provide an answer for who's responsible. I can identify that shadow in the night, and I can give him a first, middle, and last name and a date of birth, and I can bury him under a prison. That I can do. Can I bring back your loved one? No, I can't do that. But I can make somebody suffer for taking them from you. That I can do.
You mentioned that part of the reason that you do this, one of the two reasons why you do this, is because it's therapeutic for you. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you how therapeutic.
Wonderfully so, and I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. In the last 7 years, I do. I still don't sleep. I have nightmares. I have all that. It's the
you
price
don't
sleep? Pay. No. The price you pay for the work, all right? It's worth it. It's worth it. I'm not whining. I mean, I do that when I sign up, all right? But I feel better emotionally than I've felt in a long time because I was able to speak about these things, not rid myself of it, but just relieve some of the pressure by just talking about it.
What do you, when you do the kind of work that you've done for so long, what's the scar tissue? What's the buildup? What do you carry within you? Oh, we're about to get deep.
You carry the memories. I mean, there's a river of death. You know, people wave at me when they go by. Hello, how are you? You know, it's oh yeah, it's part of the thing. It's part of the nightmares. You know, it's just part of it. It's part of it. I have seen death by every means except a nuclear weapon. I've never seen that. Pick another method of death. I've seen multiple examples: fire, explosion, gun, knife, crystal ashtray, baseball bat, you name it. Violence is a horrible thing. No movie, no TV show can show you the result of violence. It cannot. There's only one thing that can, and that's the real thing. There is no movie that's ever been made that demonstrates what it's like to see somebody who's been violently killed. There's nothing like it. And there's no way to describe it. And it's something you should avoid if you can, you know, but it's the nature of the work that I did and that I did at the time that you must learn from the method of destruction to speak to who is responsible. So you must examine human remains, you must look at all these things. That's the way it is. And the first time I ever saw a dead body that had decomposed for about a week in the summer in a second-floor apartment building, I thought maybe I'd made a mistake as to a chosen life career. And the next day I came to work, I was still on patrol. It's like getting thrown off a horse. I thought about, I couldn't sleep, I was sick, I couldn't eat. I mean, it's like, oh my God, is this what this is? And I got in that police car the next day, and when the dispatcher calls the sector car to ask if you're in service, you're supposed to answer that, yes, you are. You're in the car, you're prepared to answer a call. And I had gone to work, and they assumed I was in that car because it was the right time of day. So they're calling me on the air, my call sign. And you look at that microphone and you think, if you pick that up, you've made your decision. This is the moment. You're going to get back in that horse, or you're going to get out of this car. What are you going to do, Joey? You know? And you're sitting there, my heart's in my throat. I'm thinking, boy, I don't know, man, I don't know. And I thought, oh, no, you signed up for this. You took an oath. You raised your hand. I picked up that mic and I said, 4 item 41 is in service. You know? So here I am.
You've written a book.
I have. I wrote it 5 times, I threw it away, and I wrote it the 6th time, and that's the one that you could buy.
Hold it up. I know people out there. There it is. Hold them up. Hold them up. Scream out the title of the book.
It's done very well, and as a result, they want a 2nd book, and I'm working on that right now.
So how did you enter that book project, and what was the mission? Was it any different than your approach? It's certainly not, because I've read it, it's all Kenda.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was the approach to the book, and what did you want to accomplish with it?
I just thought people might be interested in a little more about me than they knew more than they know from watching the show, reading the book. You know, I talked about my life, how I met my wife, my kids, my motivations, the good, the bad, the very funny. Some of it's very funny. Some of it's not funny at all. Some of it's disgusting. You know, it just depends. So you experience all the emotions. You know, you're laughing, crying, throwing up, looking over your shoulder, make sure you're alone while you're reading it. Anybody in here? And that's what I wanted to do. Just give everybody a taste of what it's like to do what I did for a living, which is, I think it did. I'm proud of it. I liked it. You know.
Well, you sold it out. You're in a 2nd printing on it?
It's in its 5th printing,
Jesus,
I think.
brother.
Yeah.
A 5th printing on it?
I think so. I went to the 2nd printing in 9 days. So it's
So what? So you work as a homicide detective. You're used to dealing with media folks like me who will come up and ask you a couple of questions for the evening newscast.
Sure.
And, you know, but you don't see that work necessarily leading to this. You got a call, and now there's an opportunity to do the program. And the next thing they tell you is, you're a hit.
Yeah, I know. How the hell did that happen? But, you know,
you're right. You're Joe you're a detective from Colorado Springs.
Yep.
And then almost the next day,
yes,
you're this.
I am living proof that even a blind pig finds an acorn once in a while, you know? I was standing in the right place when something fell out of the sky and hit me, which was this. So, and every day I look at my wife and I say, is this really happening? I mean, this isn't like some extended dream, is it? You know? No, I think it's pretty real. Okay, well, okay. You know.
Yeah. It's all a wonderful surprise for you that it's rolled out in the way that it has?
It's a shock. I told my wife and my wife once again, she's always right. I said, nobody's going to watch this. So what are you talking about? It's just murder. Nobody's going to watch. Oh, you're wrong there. I said, well, we'll see. You know, just never be on television.
Right.
Or maybe it lasts a year, and they'll tell me to go away. You know. And I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
As it turns out. Yeah.
So I've clearly entered into the part of the program where I'm just trying to come to grips in my own head with the enormity of this man and what he's done for this channel, right? So because of the success of the program, yeah, you write a book and you're on your 5th printing. But also you get to hang out with Hollywood stars, all right? So Joe Kenda knows The Rock.
Yeah.
Tell us about that spot.
He's a very nice man. Dwayne Johnson is a great guy. Jack Black, Black and Johnson and I did a commercial for the movie Jumanji. And we shot it in Atlanta, Georgia at Sony Pictures. And they had an animal trip. My wife's an animal freak, you know. And they had 2 20-foot snakes and some scorpions and pepper roaches from the Congo. They're that big, you know. And so she was in hog heaven. They were playing with all the animals and everything. And Johnson and Black are really funny guys, really nice guys. And it was great fun to do that. And the commercial kind of turned out to be very funny.
For Jumanji.
Yeah, for
right?
Jumanji, yeah.
You know, the Joe Kenda that we all know and love is not the Joe Kenda we all know and love without Kathy Kenda. Kathy Kenda is here. Kathy Kenda is here. Bring the chair up. Bring Kathy out. I want you to meet the most amazing support system on the planet, Kathy Kenda.
Oh, they roped you into this too. All right then.
So this is wonderful. This is wonderful. So I'm happy you're here, Kathy. So I want you. What in the world, when you were kids in school, what the hell did you see in this man?
His blue eyes.
And now it's on. Wow. What's your story? What's your version of how you met and how you eventually fell in love?
We met in high school at a basketball game. He was with this girl that he was brought to the game. His mom set him up with the date. And I was sitting behind him, and I thought, ooh, he's kind of cute. He turned around. He thought, she's kind of cute. So he abandoned the girl and came and sat with me for the rest of the game. And that started it.
So I'm curious as to how you see your role. I mean, look, I want to establish something right here and right now. You know, it's great that, how many years have you been married now?
50 and a half.
And I want everyone to know that this is a woman who has lived her own complete and full life and continues to do so. This is not a woman who has just sort of lived her life in support of Joe Kenda, all right? So I want I want you to talk about, you know, your own sort of path in life, you know, what your aspirations were, what you were able to check off your, you know, your life and career checklist, because you've had a wonderful life and career of service yourself.
Well, my mother was an original woman's liver. She said, you have to get an education because you're not going to rely on any man.
Kathy Kenda, y'all.
If you pick the wrong man, take those kids, move away, do your own thing. So she said, you need a career. So I went to college and I got my nursing degree. And then he was still in college because I'm a year older than he is, so I'm smarter than he is.
She took advantage of my youth and inexperience.
So we had to wait till one of us got out of school because the parents were not going to pay for college if we were married. So we got out of school, and then we got married. He was still in college. I went to work, and I supported him in the style that he should be accustomed to.
And you, how many years as a nurse?
35.
And what drew you to that line of work?
I think I wanted to help people. I also read all the Cherry Ames books, when I was a kid. And, Cherry Ames student nurse and everything. My aunt was a pharmacist. My whole family, all the women were professional people. And I just always thought I wanted to be a nurse. So I did it.
What was your reaction to the conversation that you had with Joe when he says, I'm going into law enforcement, I'm going to be a cop?
I said...
Oh, wow, I see the face. I think I just got the look.
Well, there's a whole story behind that.
Yeah.
It has to do with vodka and orange juice. What he was doing at that time kind of wasn't working out. We didn't have enough money. I had to borrow money from my parents every week, and that wasn't good. And I'm really good at pinching pennies. So I had enough, so I waited up one night. The kids were in bed. I had a whole bunch of vodka and orange juices. And I told him that this was not working. We have to do something else. And he said, well, I've always wanted to be a cop. And I said, okay, do it. You have a year to figure this out and to start applying for a job.
Or else?
Or else me and the kids are gone. And he said, oh, okay.
Did he say, my?
No, he did not. I think he said, oh. So the next day, he woke up. I woke up. I had a headache. He said, do you remember what we were discussing last night? And I said, would you like chapter and verse or just a synopsis? And he said, oh, again. And he started applying for jobs.
Oh, that's so good. And Joe, there was one moment, I think you write about it, I think I've heard you talk about it, where you were actually really concerned for the safety of your family. You remember that?
Kathy had to suffer through what I did for a living and carried a gun, as I insisted she carry a gun. People threatened her, threatened the kids, kill your dog, kill your wife. One particular occasion, a guy called her on the phone and told her what color the carpet was in the living room of our house. Oh, all right. So yeah, things could get very bad. And Mrs. Kenda learned her lessons and supported me and supported our kids and our marriage. And she worked as hard at it as I did. And she was as brave, quote unquote, as I supposedly was, quote unquote.
And don't mess with me because I'm an excellent shot.
Oh, she is. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you don't want her shooting at you because she'll kill you. You know what I mean? And she'll do it immediately. You won't have a chance to consider what's going to happen next. It's always been a joke with us that I wanted to avoid the narrow blue eyes. My wife has blue eyes, and when she's pissed, her eyes narrow. You know what I mean? Oh, not the narrow blue eyes, please, not that, you know. So to make her angry, I introduce her occasionally as the lovely and radiant Mrs. Kenda, which makes her mad. Or I also introduce her as my first wife, which she is. She is my first wife, but, you know, that makes her mad, too. I don't know why. Ask her about the hospital and how she ruined my scam.
I think the question is now out there.
He would come to the hospital, and he would read charts. he would walk in his suit and just pick up the chart and start reading it. They all thought he was a doctor. And they say, "Good morning, doctor." And he wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm not a doctor." He would just say, "Oh, good morning." So one day I'm working at the hospital, and I see him picking up and reading the chart. Now, this is after HIPAA comes in, okay? And he is too lazy to go get a warrant to read the chart. He just took the chart. And
He's
I said,
just being Kenda.
and I said, "What the are you doing?" He said, "What's it look like?" "I'm reading a chart." I said, "You can't do that." He said, "Yeah, I can." I said, "No, you can't." The head nurse walked by and she said, "You can't talk to that doctor like that."
How have you two done this? How have you 50? 50?
We've done it with a lot of talking and alcohol on the week.
I think the mistake people make in long-term relationships, she and I talk about everything all the time. There are moments when she would cheerfully kill me and vice versa, okay? But you sit down and you discuss what's wrong. Why are you angry with me? What did I do now? What did you do? So on and so forth. You talk through things. You talk through things all the time, every day, all the time. Because if you don't, people change as they age. They do. And if you don't stay in contact and just keep talking, how do you feel about this? What do you think about that? You know, you really understand the change in the personality. You wake up with some morning and you say, "Who the hell is that?" You don't know who they are anymore, and they don't know who you are either. So I think in our case, that's what worked best for us. We yapped, you know. We still do.
Outstanding.
And she hasn't tried to kill me for over a week. I just thought I'd say that.
So first, I just want to thank you both for your service in your respective fields, both difficult jobs in different ways. My question is, when you were working on the concepts like of the show, picking which cases you're going to discuss, do you have a hard time? Like, do you have to do you have discussions about like keeping the integrity of the story for the victims, for the families?
Of course. I can answer that this way, and it may be interesting for all of you. Colorado has an Open Records Act. Murder cases, when they're adjudicated, are public record. You can walk in a police department and buy a copy of it, as anybody can, and read it. Have it in your house, whatever you want to do with it. If the guy's in jail, it's done. I was always concerned about sensitivity of the family. I still am. We ask permission, and I reduce the case to understandable terms. I don't talk about certain things in the case. I hit the highlights so I can explain it to you in an hour. If I presented a murder case the way it happens, the show would last for 16 weeks and nobody'd watch it. Because it would make you crazy. Down this rabbit warren, it's the wrong rabbit warren. And down this rabbit warren, no, that's not it either. Our prime suspect, ooh boy, this is the guy. Well, he was in jail the night of the murder. Oh, crap. You know, here we go. It's a lot of frustration, a lot of false leads, a lot of false information. So I have to tell a story from a perspective of you not knowing a thing about it that I can explain to you in 1 hour's time from a perfect stranger, that you understand how we got from A to B to C and how we got to a courtroom. That's what I do.
Yeah, who's next?
Hi, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. After watching all of your episodes, I've seen them all multiple times, I've had so much respect. It's incredible, but it wasn't until I read your book as an autistic mom of a son did I realize it was possible, it was greater. And that's when I cried. That touched me more than anything from your experiences as a bus driver. Thank you.
For those of you that haven't read the book, and everybody in here has read the book, I was a special needs bus driver.
And so was I.
And so was Kathy. And I called my bus the Waldorf Hysteria, because everybody in it was nuts, including me. We had a great time. I loved those kids, and they loved me back. It was the first job I ever had that everybody was happy to see me when I came to work. And I touched one particular autistic boy that his mother...
Tell him about Mario.
Oh, yeah. I had a kid whose his name was Emmett, his real name. But I called him Mariano Rivera. He was my relief pitcher. That kid could sit in any seat in my bus and knock my head off with one shoe, and he never missed. All right? And he was a Down syndrome kid, and he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen in his life. The kid was as accurate as Mariano Rivera, so he became Mariano, you know. We're sending you in, Mariano. We need relief here, you know. And he'd take off that sneaker. He could be sitting anywhere in that bus, and he would zing that hat right off my head. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's good.
And I'd laugh all the way to school, and so would he. It was absolutely wonderful, you know. So we had moments like that to where it was a great joy for me to come from the misery and the death and the autopsies and crying mothers to these little kids that nobody cared about except me in some cases. In a lot of cases, other cases, the parents did. But some kids were foster families. Nobody wanted them, you know. So we had a little troop, you know, on my bus, and it was I did that for years. I loved it. I wasn't going to give it up until the TV thing came along.
Yeah.
All right,
And there you go. And your question.
Hi, Joe and Kathy. Okay. I could ask you a million questions about your career cases, all the fascinating stuff, but I guess I would like to know for both of you, what is your favorite thing about being married to each other?
Wow.
I'm a newlywed, so I'm kind of warm and fuzzy with that.
Well done.
Aside from her spaghetti sauce, which is wonderful, I would say I not just love her, I like her.
And I was lucky. I picked the right one the first time when I was really young.